Welcome to Profit and Prosper, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are ready to make some money while doing what they love. On this podcast, we're going to pull back the curtain and talk about all things business and money. But I promise you, this is not your typical boring numbers talk. I'm your host, Sarah Young, a CPA and CFO with over a decade of experience in finance, business, and leadership. I'm going to share everything I've learned from helping my clients grow more profitable businesses and keep more of what they earn while growing my own successful business along the way. You'll feel empowered and confident that you too can grow your wealth, live a rich life, and have an impact. Stick with me and you might even start to think that finance is fun. Let's dive in. This week, we have a fabulous guest interview. We have got Nikki Rausch, who is the CEO of Sales Maven. Nikki has the unique ability to transform the misunderstood process of selling. So that's why I wanted to have her come on, is to talk about how do we actually make more sales. Nikki has over 25 years of selling experience, and now entrepreneurs hire her to show them how to sell successfully and authentically. Nikki has written 3 books, all available on Amazon, and she has a podcast called Sales Maven, which you can find on your favorite podcast platform. So in this episode, we talked about all things sales. What exactly sales is and how that's different from marketing. Because I think a lot of people mix those things up and don't actually intentionally have a sales process. She talked about how to make the sales process feel less scary, less overwhelming, and how to make it more authentic to you as a person and as a business owner. We talked about some of the biggest mistakes that she sees people make in the sales process, and she gave all of us, and me specifically also, some really tangible tips for how to improve the sales process and how to improve conversions. This episode, we really talked more about the process of selling via sales calls. And so this will be applicable to all of you who have service-based businesses, who do sales calls and done-for-you type offers. I think this will be really beneficial. So I hope you enjoy the episode, and make sure to go check out the link in the show notes where Nikki has provided a free sales training for all of us to go check out. And I will absolutely be checking that out right alongside you. Enjoy. All right. Welcome back, y'all, to the podcast. I'm super excited to have Nikki here. Nikki, thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
So let's just jump right in and tell me a little bit of your story about you and your business and how you started it, what you're doing now, and all of that fun stuff.
Well, thank you. I'm the CEO of Sales Maven, and my organization is dedicated to teaching people how to have more successful sales conversations. So I really specialize in the conversation of sales. And my background is in corporate technology space and selling there for many, many years. I started the business in 2013 with the idea of I was spending a lot of time around some really amazing women entrepreneurs. And I found that a lot of them struggled with the sales conversation. They didn't know how to recognize buying signals. They weren't really sure how to even do business development or open the door in conversations. And my business was really just born out of wanting to spend time around these super cool women and offer them something that would make an impact in their life and their business. So the business has evolved in the last 10 years. I work with clients internationally, and I still specialize in the conversation of sales, and I have the best time doing it.
That's awesome. So, in 10 years, you don't often talk to women who have been in business for 10 years. So, before we jump into your area of expertise, I'm just curious if there's anything specific that has come up for you in your business as you've grown and evolved, you've had to overcome.
Yeah, I think lots of things. I think there's always that confidence issue about, can you really charge what you need to charge in order for your business to be sustainable? And can you articulate your value in a way that gets people excited to take that first initial step with you? Because I know once clients take that first step with me, they're going to take more steps because what I teach works, and they get I always say implementers get results, they get big results. But there have been things where I will say a few years ago, one of the things that I figured out, and I wish it didn't take me as long as it did to figure it out, is I figured out what my core offers needed to be that would feed each other. And so when I figured out, so I think of this like kind of as a triangle now. And I look for, if I'm going to put something out, will it feed another offer? Because I think it's unsatisfying to clients to do one thing with you and then that be it. Like, what else can they do or what else is possible for them? And so once I kind of started to hone that and really focus on, these are my three core areas, and all the other stuff that I can do, I may do if somebody asks me, but it's not going to be no money and no time is going to be spent on promoting it.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because I know there's a statistic people like to share about the value of repeat clients as opposed to having to go out and get new clients all the time.
Mhm.
And not to toot my own horn, but I feel like my offers are structured in a pretty good way where like clients can ascend through as their
Mhm.
business grows. And so it's not like, I don't know, I feel like it's pretty well designed in that way. But I agree. I think
Yeah.
that's a good point. And so, I mean, is that something that you work on with your clients
Mhm.
about, how do you structure those offers so that they lead to not just the sale the one time, but repeat customers?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time, especially with my private coaching clients, talking about how do we increase lifetime value of an offer and how do we increase lifetime value of a client? Because repeat business is always the easiest business to earn for the most part. And it's providing the most value to the client when they have opportunities to continue to get more with you, right? And benefit from that level of expertise or that focus or whatever it is that your business is offering. And I find that a lot of times with clients, they're not really thinking about lifetime value, and they're not really thinking about, like, does this offer feed other offers? And when we can start to look and structure things that way, they're like, instead of like, oh my gosh, I need to find 40 new clients a month, it's like, no, you don't. We need to look at who are your existing clients right now? What else would they benefit from taking advantage of? And how can we put the offer in front of them in a way that is interesting, creates curiosity, and makes them want to say yes to it?
Yeah. I want to take a second and ask about lifetime value, because I agree that's something that people don't understand, I think, in a lot of cases. And so what is lifetime value at a high level? How do you figure out what that is for your clients?
To me, I mean, one of the things I can do from my system, I can look and see, okay, so what has been the lifetime value of this client? So that's from the first thing they ever bought from you up until today. Like, what has that generated? And so a lot of times I do some of this manually. Like, I'll go back and I'll search, I'll look and go, this client has been a good client for a while. What was it that got them in the door initially? And then what was the next offer that they took? And can I repeat that with other clients? So a lot of times I think it's really important to look and go, what is the lifetime value of a client? I have a membership platform, and so we're always looking like, what's the lifetime value of somebody who's in the membership? But the membership isn't the end all be all. There's other offers. So that in order to increase lifetime value, I have to put other offers in front of my members.
To nerd out on numbers a little bit,
Yeah,
I would guess, like with your membership as an example, you're going to look at obviously the monthly fee, but then on
mhm,
average, how long are people staying? Right.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
so when you bring somebody in, if it's, just to use easy numbers, if it's $100 a month and they're going to stay for 10 months on average, then every time you bring a client in, that's $1,000 as their value. And then you can increase their lifetime value. To nerd out on numbers a little more, I know my listeners like to do some numbers sometimes. So if, maybe 10% of those membership customers upgrade to a one-on-one coaching package that's like $5,000, then that would increase their lifetime value to, am I doing the math
6,000.
right? Yeah. So that would increase that one customer to 6,000. And
Yeah.
then the average, if you were to average it out, if I do 10% goes up to the $5,000 offer, that would increase their value to 1,500 on average. Right.
Mhm. Yep.
So as you're thinking about the cost to acquire a customer, even if you're not paying for ads or anything like that, you're still investing time in the sales process and marketing.
Yes.
But I think it's really great to know that those
Yeah.
kind of numbers. I personally have, with our agency stuff, we have a monthly retainer is our model.
Mhm.
And we have a really, really high retention rate. And so, for me, when I think about lifetime value, I've got clients who've been with us for 2 years, 3 years plus, right? And so I'm thinking about, okay, I feel confident that most people at least renew for another year, if not 2 years. And so my lifetime value is obviously very high. So
Yes.
all good
Yeah.
stuff to know. What do you think is the time to develop that model of having more than one offer? Because I think when we start out in business, a lot of us may start with one or two offers, just trying to
Mhm.
keep things simple. Like, at what point is the best time to really like lay out a full offer structure, in your opinion?
In my opinion, the time that you really should be figuring that out is probably after you've delivered your offer at least 5 times and you know that those people are going to be coming to a close at some point with the offer. That's the time that you start thinking about what else, what makes sense next. And a lot of times that's an advantage of working with somebody like me, because we're going to talk through that, what that other offer can be, figure out what what the pricing should be at least, and then how do you test it in the market. So I encourage my clients to do a lot of testing. Sometimes it's just proof of concept. Sometimes it's like, do you want to know if anyone will buy this? Put an offer out and see if anybody buys it. That's how you test it in the market. You don't do a bunch of research and call a bunch of people and ask them, like, if I gave you this offer, what would you spend? It's like, no, let's put the offer out. Let's see if somebody will buy it. Now we have proof of concept. Let's deliver on it. What did you like about delivering on it? What provided huge value to your client? And then what else isn't in there yet that we can make the next step up offer?
Yeah, I think it's good to have some reps under your belt, just so you see
Yeah.
what do people like, what are they saying, what are their actual words they're using from the initial consult or application form or whatever got them in the door through delivery and all of that. Because it's good data, and you'll never get that, just from researching and asking people questions. Like, they may answer the questions, but they never really give you the good information. So
I always laugh at the people that are like, you should be charging 5 times more than that. It's like, okay, that's a really easy thing to say to people. Will somebody pay 5 times more? How do you know? You put the offer out and you see if somebody will buy it. And if they don't buy it, then there's no proof of concept there. So what do we need to tweak? What do we need to do different? And I think a lot of times, like you said, it's so beneficial to get those reps under your belt, because you start to figure out like, oh my gosh, I just delivered this and it was way more work than I thought it was going to be. And it doesn't actually make sense as an offer for my business long term. So that's why I'm just going to test it, do it a couple times and go like, well, I'll never do that again. Or I'm going to do this part, but not this part. Right.
yeah, if I'm testing out new things, I always try to remember to give myself an out. So if it ends up not working, I'm not stuck doing something, forever and ever.
Yeah.
It's just for a short term, a trial period, a
Yeah.
project basis, something like that. Like, I'm not going to sign a 12-month retainer client to some brand new offer structure if I don't know if it works yet, because that's a long time to be
It's a
stuck doing that.
very long time. And if you're beating your head against the wall the whole time, trying to figure out how to make it have value, or you're working yourself to the bone, and it's like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That was a
And
bad
ask
decision.
me, ask me how I know this is a bad idea.
Sarah, how do you know that?
Oh, because I've done it. It's fine. If you're enjoying my podcast, then you are going to love my exclusive weekly email series, Profit and Prosper Millionaire Mondays. As a business owner, you have limitless potential for the amount of cash flow you can create in your business, but your journey to building wealth might not feel all that straightforward. To convert your cash flow into real wealth, you need to do a bit of planning and strategizing so that you can be wealthy and be well, reaching financial independence and eventually retiring or relaxing early at your lake house, which is my plan. In my Millionaire Mondays email series, I share tactics and strategies for using your business to generate your first $1 million in net worth in the same approachable way that you get in the podcast. Sign up for my exclusive emails for free at profitandprosper.co/millionaire. I don't think that people really know what sales is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we confuse marketing and sales. And even more so, I think a lot of people confuse posting on Instagram and sales.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell me, in your words, like, what is sales exactly?
Well, first, I'm going to tell you the difference between sales and marketing. So, marketing's job is to bring leads into your organization, into your company. Sales' job is to take that lead and convert it into cash, into money in the bank. So, one of the misunderstood concepts of sales, I will say, is people think that you have to convince, that sales is about convincing people to buy from you. And I say it isn't. Sales isn't something that you're supposed to do to another person. Sales is something you do with another person. It's a collaborative experience. So when you approach sales as I'm going to do something to somebody, I'm going to get something out of somebody, it feels gross and manipulative, and people shy away from it, especially business owners that are showing up wanting to do really good work in the world and have a little bit of like a servant's heart wanting to make an impact. They will shy away from sales because they think, oh, I don't want to do something to somebody. That feels, again, doesn't feel right. It feels out of alignment. When you approach sales as your job is not to convince people to buy from you. Your job is to understand, does this person have a need or a want or a problem? Do you have a solution that will meet that need or solve that problem? And do you have permission to offer the solution to the person? And if the answer is yes, they have a problem, yes, you have a solution, and yes, you have permission, the sales conversation gets so much easier.
Yeah, I agree. I like the way you said that. And as a follow-up to that, how can you get permission? What do you have to do to get permission to bring your offer and feel comfortable doing that?
Yeah, this is like, I almost feel like you're going to be like, smack me upside the head when I give you the answer, but hear me out a little bit. The way that you get permission is you ask. And most people don't ask, they want to tell. So, an example of asking permission is I might say, Sarah, I was looking at the different things that you're doing, and I'm wondering if you'd be open to talking about some possible ways we could work together. That's me asking permission. That's not me showing up being like, hey, Sarah, I checked out your website. You know what I think? I think you should change this and you should change that. And you should totally hire my company because we're going to do all these things for you. That's word vomiting. I don't have permission to tell you anything about your website, anything about your offers. So that's where sales gets kind of the bad name that it gets, is because so many people are doing it in this way of being aggressive, manipulative, and frankly, they don't have your permission. But if I asked in that really nice way and you said, sure, Nikki, I'll give you a few minutes of my time. Now my job is to earn more of your time. My job is to earn and pique your interest, create some curiosity so that you want to have a real conversation with me. You want to ask questions. You're open to hearing what my suggestions might be for you. And then we get to a place where I'm going to ask you again, I do have a way we might work together. Would you be interested in talking about that? And if you say yes, now I have permission to put an offer in front of you.
Yeah. I knew you were going to say, just ask. I just wanted you to say it.
Okay,
And
good.
it does. It seems so simple,
Yeah.
but I have conversations with people in my DMs on Instagram, for example, and I really try to say like every step of the process, hey, are you open to this?
Yeah.
Right? Like I hear you're saying this. I may have a solution. Are you open to hearing about it? And having that permission makes it feel a lot more, what's the word I'm thinking of?
I'm going to
Like we're
say
co-creating this,
collaborative.
right?
Yeah.
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 Yes. That's the word. So I agree. I think that's really good. And I've said that to people too. They're like, I just need to make sales. And I'm like, well, are you asking? Are you asking for sales? When was the last time you asked for a sale? And they say, well, never. Like, well, there you go. We can't just like sit back and wait for them to come.
No.
That actually brings me to my next question. And so something I see as, in the role that I have as a CFO, as somebody who's very in with clients and cash flow, we're talking about profitability a lot. I think that managing sales pipelines is actually really important. And I think that when I say sales pipelines, I mean, that sounds way more fancy than it is really. But, I think for business owners, like they're busy, right? What would you tell them if they're like, I'm just not making consistent sales, and maybe you dig in and you see that they're not doing the activities that lead to having a consistent pipeline of leads coming in?
Yeah. So again, I'm going to say leads to me are marketing efforts. So leads coming in, but turning those leads into clients or into customers, that's the job of sales. And when that happens, when the leads are coming in and they're not closing, they're not converting, usually there's a breakdown in your process. And the breakdown is that you are not guiding the process. You're leaving the ball too much in the clients or the prospects court, and you're expecting them to do all the heavy lifting. And so I see this over and over and over again. And I do a lot of training for sales teams and for business owners. And I always say, like, your job is to make it so easy for the person to hire you that when you get to that place where you ask for their business, it should be an easy yes. But if you're putting up roadblocks because either you don't know what to do or what to say, or frankly, you're just being lazy because you don't want to do all the work to earn the business, then you won't get the business. So there's things that people do that slow down the selling process, like slow down the opportunity for somebody to buy. And when you start to slow down the process, the chance of that person ever completing the sale with you becomes nothing, right? Like it goes away, it vanishes. So it's your job to keep the ball rolling. It's your job to move people through the process, guide them through the process. Don't expect them to do the heavy lifting. Don't expect them to tell you when they're available for a call, to take some big action, to have to send you a bunch of information or have to fill out a huge form in order to get on a call with you. Like all these things are roadblocks. And we got to clear as many of those roadblocks as possible, because I'm just using like 1,000 different analogies here, but it's like playing a game of tennis with somebody, with a prospective client, and you bounce the ball to them and you're expecting them to bounce the ball back. At some point, somebody's going to drop the ball, they're going to miss it. And 9 times out of 10, the person who misses it is the prospect, because you're expecting them to lob the ball back to you. That's not their job, it's yours.
Yeah. So you said make it easy for them to hire you.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think you started listing off some of the things that people do, but what are some common things that business owners do that make it difficult for them to just get hired?
The most common thing that makes it hard is they don't actually ever ask for the business. You get through this process like, we had a discovery call or a consultation call. Maybe you've put together a proposal for them. And now you're like, hey, I'll send this proposal to you. Like, let me know when you're ready to move forward. You just dropped the ball. You just put up a huge roadblock. And what I want you to do instead is say to the prospect, here's the proposal. I'm going to have it to you tomorrow. Let's schedule a time now to review it together and then talk about next steps for working together. And then we get a time scheduled on our calendars, not just on my calendar to like reach out to you. No, on your calendar too, so that we get on a call together and we talk through the proposal. And then I let you have an opportunity to ask me any last lingering questions. And then I'm going to ask for your business. A lot of times people never get the ask out of their mouth. They don't say, hey, Sarah, now that I've answered your questions, are you ready to move forward with working together? And then zip it and wait. Like you have to issue closed language. And if you're not issuing closed language, I guarantee you are leaving money on the table and you are walking away from business you could have earned.
Yeah. Why is it so hard? Why is it so uncomfortable to ask that question? Are you ready to move forward?
Yeah, I think because people are afraid that they're afraid of what they're going to say. I find a lot of times people act like, well, if I ask them for their business, they're going to clutch their pearls and be like, How dare you? How dare you ask me for your business? But I've been in sales now for more than 25 years, and I've asked for a lot of people's business, and I've never had anybody clutch their pearls and be like, "How dare you ask me, Nikki?" Now, I have had people tell me no, for sure. But the thing is sometimes I want to get to the no so that I'm not wasting time and energy. You can have, I see this all the time with business owners. They like show up, they're super proud of like, here's the list of 30 people who, if they all buy from me, this is going to be, another $130,000 in business. And I'm like, well, how many of them have you had conversations with? None. None of those count as leads. None of those count as prospects. There's a difference between a lead and a prospect. None of them have indicated that they have a need or that they're interested in even what you offer. So it's fine. That's a call list. That's not a prospect list. So there's a difference. So I just think it's really important that people understand there is a structure to sales. And just like, I mean, you tell me because you're the expert here, but when it comes to CFO, like there's a process for accounting. You don't just get to like fly by the seat of your pants and go like, maybe at the end of the year, I'll know what my numbers are. It's like, no, you have to track this, right? There's a process to it. And if you don't do it, you're going to pay somebody. Well, I don't know, Sarah, if you even offer those services, but you're going to pay somebody a lot of money to go back and figure it out and put it into a structure so that you can look at your numbers, have your CFO, be a partner with you and make recommendations. Sales is the same. There's a structure to it. And if you're not following a structure and you're just flying by the seat of your pants, chances are there's a lot of people where you're like, I thought they were going to buy, but they didn't. Well, that's because you made it too hard for them to buy and you're asking them to do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, that's so good. I recently started doing the thing where on the call with somebody, I will, before I get off, try to get them nailed down for another catch up call on my
Yeah.
calendar to like talk
Yeah.
through the proposal. And I've only recently started doing that because I started having people sort of ghost me after
Yeah.
sending the proposal. Like it was never an issue, but then it started to become more of an issue recently. And so I started scheduling the follow-ups and, it's definitely been helpful, I will say. And then also just getting better for me at directly asking, people will say things like, oh yeah, sure. I'll think about it. And I'm like, well, I've gotten much more practiced at asking, like, what is there to think about? Let's process it because there's no better person to think about this with than me who can actually
Mhm.
answer the questions and do that. And the first few times I did it, it felt so awkward.
Well, everything that you're doing the first time usually feels a little awkward or a little uncomfortable because it's not your natural flow. But when you, like you said, it's gotten better, it's gotten easier, right? Like now you
Yeah.
can say it and it probably rolls off your tongue so naturally that it just sounds like the way you talk. That's just Sarah. That's just Sarah being Sarah.
Yeah.
That's what it should be.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, and I started doing that more because like there's nothing worse than having a consult with somebody who you vibe with, they'd be great. They seem like they love you. They're telling you they're ready to go and then they don't sign the proposal and it's just crickets. And then you're like, what happened? It's like you go on a date and they don't want to come back on a second date with you, right? Like there's nothing worse. It just makes you feel so bad. So, was there anything else that you talked about not asking for the sale in terms of like making it hard for people to buy from you? Is there anything else that, people frequently do?
One of the things that I find a lot of business owners do is they want people to like sign a bunch of contracts and fill out a bunch of paperwork before they actually like become a client, which anytime again, you're putting things on the other person's plate on their to-do list, the chance of them doing it and not dropping the ball are slim to none. So one of the things I always tell my client is if somebody's ready to work with you, you need to be ready to take their payment. And I will take payment even before they've signed the contract. Because what's the worst that
Mm.
could happen? They get the contract and they go, no, I'm not signing that. And I have to refund them their money. That would be the worst case scenario. But the best case scenario is they've paid money now. So of course they're going to sign the contract because they want to get started because they've got like skin in the game. So when you make it really difficult and again, you're asking people to do a bunch of things in order to work with you, in order to pay you money, you're going to slow down the process. And this kind of goes back to the ask, but it all works together. So I don't know, Sarah, if you've ever heard, they say that the average adult makes a certain number of decisions in a day. Are you familiar with the stats out
Yeah.
there around that?
hmm
So do you know what it is off the top of
No,
your
but
head?
it's a lot. It's like a mind-boggling number.
Yeah. So if you think about, like, for your listener, if you think right now, as an adult, how many decisions on average do you think you make a day? So get a number in your head, and then I'm going to tell you. The stat out there says it's a minimum of 30,000 decisions a day an adult makes. That's a lot of decisions. So what happens is when you say to somebody like, "Oh, well, let me know when you decide to move forward," you're essentially saying, put that decision on your to-do list and put it with all the other 30,000 decisions that you have to make today. And if you don't make it today, then just push it to tomorrow's 30,000 decisions. And then the day after, and the day after, and the day after. What are the chances you're going to ever make it to the top of that person's to do list around the decision? Slim to none. So, this is why you ask in the moment for their business, on the call, like you said, what do you need to think about? Let's talk it through together. Or if they really do need time to process, or they have a partner involved, or whatever, then you say, great, let's schedule a circle back call. Let's get it on our calendars now. That way I can answer any last questions you have and we can decide about working together. And then we get a time scheduled. And then what happens is it gets to be that day. Let's say you and I scheduled this for Friday at 10, and you get up that morning and you look at your calendar and you're like, oh, I have a call with Nikki at 10 and I'm supposed to tell her whether or not I want to work with her. I better make a decision about that, because if the answer is no, there's no point in you taking up your time and getting on a call with me to tell me no. So you're probably going to send me an email and go, hey, Nikki, I'm not going to work with you. Or you're going to go, I think I am going to work with her. I think, but maybe I still have a question I need answered. I have to give you that opportunity to process in that way. And that's only going to happen if I'm on your calendar and you look at your calendar and go, I better figure this out.
Yeah, I actually did. I had that happen the first time I ever did this, like scheduling the call while I'm on the call.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I ever did it, the person canceled on me. She was like, no, I'm not going to move forward. I'm like, you know what? I'm glad I didn't waste another, 20-minute plus
Yeah.
conversation to see, to help process that. So I
Yeah.
think that's really great advice.
Yeah.
One
I
other
call
thing
those
that,
bless and release. To me,
yeah,
those are just bless and release situations.
yeah,
Like, you don't have to waste any more time, any more energy on trying to earn somebody's business who's not going to hire you. Bless and release,
yeah,
move on.
I know that one is actually one of the other things you said was having people fill out, an extensive form to get on
Mm-hmm.
a call with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested in your thoughts about this because I'll tell you my history. I used to allow people to book calls with me directly from my website, and our services are not cheap. Our services are not structured the way that traditional CPA firms are structured. And so what I found is I was allowing people to just book a call from my website, as I was spending a lot of time on calls with people who were not prepared to sign up. And so what I do now is I have sort of an inquiry form that's not long, but it still gives me enough information to know, are they a good fit or not? And I ask the budget question, like, here's our ranges. What's your budget? Because I'm not interested. Like, I'm just not going to take the time if it's not even in your budget. And I don't mean to be mean, but it just is,
It's
right?
not mean. It's good business.
So what is your opinion on that? Because I feel like everybody has a different way they like to go about that.
I have no problem with an intake form. The issue that I tend to kind of harp on with clients is that they spend a lot of time asking people to answer questions that you don't actually need the answer to until the person hires you. That is a client intake form after they've said yes that they fill out, not before they get on a call with you. So I get this a lot with clients where they'll show me, like, here's my 30 question intake form. And it's like, why are you asking this person this question? They haven't even agreed to be a client. That's a client question. Like, how many subscribers do you have on your email list? Like, totally not relevant to earning their business. Now, after they become a client and we're going to work on their emails, then maybe that question is appropriate. So your intake form should only ask questions that you need the answer to help you determine, which is exactly what you said, by the way, Sarah, determine, am I talking to a prospective client or not? Because and you did what I recommend too for clients is put the range of your services. Don't just say my services start at, $100. Put a range. Our services range between 10,000 and 100,000. Where do you fall in your budget? Like ask that question because that's going to help you determine, because if somebody looks on your form and they go 10,000 to 100,000, we were looking to spend 500, they're not going to schedule a call with you. And if they do get on your call and you look at their form, you're probably going to cancel that because they're not a client. And that's okay. Not everybody is meant to be a client. And it's totally fine to like weed out what I call the tire kickers and the time suckers. And that's not about the person, but there are things that will suck time from you. And there will be people that'll be like, I just want to get on a call and pick Sarah's brain because she's so stinking smart.
Yeah.
Well, people pay you money to pick your brain.
Yeah, they do. I actually have I had a good example of this. I was trying to work with a lawyer a couple months ago and just wanted to have a consult about the thing, right? Just wanted to have the normal initial discovery call. And they sent must have been a 10-page form of, I needed to fill this out. Like it was to all the information that they needed to be able to do the thing I wanted them to do. And I'm like, I just want to talk about what you do. Like, I don't want to. And so I've not, I got about 2 pages into it and I'm like, okay, I don't have time for this, like moving on, So I think that's a really good point. So I have a couple other things I've written down as you've been talking. And I know we were talking before this, I had my list of questions and I don't know, we've not even addressed half of them yet, but, I think that I have 2 quick questions. One, on the conversion rates, what do you think for a service-based business? What do you think is a good conversion rate of sales calls?
I think you should be converting 50% or more of your sales calls. And I think you should be able to do your sales calls in 30 minutes or less. I think if you're spending an hour, 2 hours on a call with a prospective client, you better close that deal, right? Like if you're going to spend more than 30 minutes, that better be a yes client. Like we're just finalizing all the details and we're getting into like next steps. But I do think you should have about a 50% close rate. Now, if you say to me really proudly, I have a 100% close rate, then I'm going to look at you and say, and I think there's some work that needs to be done because you also shouldn't have a 100% close rate either. That usually is an indicator there's something going on. Either your pricing is off or you're making it too hard for people to get on calls with you. And so you should have there should be some no's, right? For a myriad of reasons, but 50% to me it's a good close rate.
Okay. You're the pro. So I'll go with that because people ask me that too. And I tell my clients in a lot of cases, like, please track your sales calls, track your closes, because as we're looking at marketing budgets, as we're looking at the sales pipeline, like we need to know this is your sales target. This is how many calls you need to get on. Like we need to know what your close rate is. So mine is like 45%. So I feel like I can maybe tweak it a little bit.
Well, you already have, right? Like you already said, you're doing that circle back call, that like next step call, that's going to increase your close rate right there, Sarah. So you're going to be over 50%.
Yeah. And I'm going to think about the whole the timeline of the contract to payment for like switching that up, because honestly, it hadn't even crossed my mind to do that. But I could totally see, how reading through the proposal or contract can be overwhelming to people, but they also want to know what they're getting into. So I may have to put some thought into that one, but that's a good idea.
If you're willing, I'm going to challenge you to just test me on it and see, because I get a lot of feedback from clients initially where they're like, I don't think I could take payment. And actually I have a brand new client. She just posted in my membership group like 2 days in a row. And she actually works in the accounting field. So she is a CFO for hire. And she's like, Nikki, I've never, ever taken payment on a call, but I asked somebody if they'd like to go ahead and pay me. And they did. So that was her first day. And the second day, she's like, and somebody else paid me again, like the 2 days later. So right in a row, she got 2 people that paid her immediately on calls. And in her mind, like that wasn't even an option. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
let's just test it and see. So if you're willing, Sarah, test it. And then you can come back to me and be like, dang you, Nikki, you're wrong. And I'll
Yeah.
totally own it. Or you can come back and be like, I'm really glad we had that conversation
Yeah.
because people are paying me up front.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. And I'm sure you're right because you are the sales pro. I'm just gonna have to think about like the setup and all that stuff. But anyways, I'll put it on my
Yeah.
to-do list.
Okay.
Okay. Something that I think comes up, this might be partly a money mindset question, but I think it's also a sales question, is around high ticket sales, right? Like, how can business owners, what are some of the things you would tell them, whether that is around like positioning or the communication of the offer, any of that? Like, what are some of your best tips for people to put a high ticket offer out there and get people to say yes?
Well, one of the easiest, most simple tips, but I have a few for you, is you have to actually put the offer out there. So you can design a high ticket offer and you can make a pretty sales page, but if you don't ever talk about it, you're never going to sell it. So that's the most important thing. And then the second thing I'm going to say about this is usually what I ask my clients is I will challenge them and I'll ask them to tell me, what is the offer that you most want to sell in your high ticket offer? Like, so if you're like, this is the offer that I most want to sell. And I go, great. Now create an offer above it that sits above it, a bigger, more expensive offer. So let's just say, I'm just going to make up a price. So hang in there with me, Sarah, because I don't know your pricing. But let's say you have a $10,000 a month retainer and you're like, that's what I most want to sell. Great. Now create a $15,000 to $20,000 a month retainer. And then when you're on a phone call or on a prospective call or on a prospecting call with a client is what I'm trying to say. When you lay out the different options to work with you, you're going to do what's known as top-down selling. So you're going to say, so based on what you've shared, there are 3 possible, and that's you only say that if there really are 3. There are 3 possible ways that we could work together. We have a, high ticket, like really customer focused offer, and it's all this. And that's the $20,000 offer, by the way, but you don't say that yet. That's all this. Then we have the kind of step down from this. And this actually is our most popular offer. And it includes this, this, and this. Or we have a basic kind of getting started package and it includes this and this, this. Of those 3, where do you fit? Or which offer feels like the right offer for you? Now they're probably going to go, what's the pricing? So you say, well, in the top offer, that's $20,000 a month retainer. The middle tier is the $10,000 a month retainer. And then the getting started is the $7,500 a month retainer. So based on those 3 pricing, which feels like the right fit for you right now? That's me continuously asking for the business, by the way, closing. That's the closing statements that I'm making. By doing it that way, what you're doing is you're anchoring a bigger offer above the offer that you want to sell. Because when you anchor, it makes people go, well, I probably don't need the $20,000 package, but I don't really want the basic. So the 10,000 is probably it kind of sits in the middle. And then the other thing about it that's super important to do top-down selling, which by the way, most people do this backwards. They go, well, the basic offer is $7,500 and you get this, this, and this. If you'd like to spend more money, you can pay me $10,000 a month and then you're going to get this extra thing. Or if you really want to spend a ton of money, you can spend $20,000 a month and you get all these other things. Nobody's going to buy your more expensive offers. But if you start at the top and you get all of these things in this $20,000 offer, as humans, we don't like to have things taken away from us. We become attached to things and we don't like to have things taken away. And the example I often give is if you think about a newborn baby, just born, one of the things a newborn baby already knows how to do is grasp. They know how to like tighten their little fist around something. And especially you, Sarah, with your long hair, put a baby in your arms. Chances are they're going to pull your hair, right? They're going to grab onto your hair and they're going to yank it because they'll like hold onto it so tight. And you got to like pry their little tiny fingers open to get your hair. Like we know how to grasp and we like to hold on to things. So if you start at the top, then they go, well, gosh, now I have to give up. I have to give up things to save money. It's different mentality than I have to spend more money to get something extra. So you have to do top-down selling. So that would be if you want to sell high ticket offers, create a higher ticket offer, one in front of it. So anchor the higher price and then make sure that when you lay it out top down.
Yeah, do a little price psychology. What do you say to people who, if they're putting out a price for something that's higher than what they're used to charging, and they're like, no one's going to buy for me, who's going to buy this? And they are really hesitant about their ability to sell that. What do you say to them?
First and foremost, you have to be able to get the pricing out of your mouth, and you need to be able to say it as if you're saying the time of day. So this is about congruence. So if you asked me right now, like, what time is it? So where I am in the world, it's 12:48. Like I have to say it like that. And if you say, Nikki, what's your price for your high ticket offer? And I say it's $10,000, I'm saying it just like I'm saying the time. But if you ask me what time is it and I say it's 12:48 and you say, well, what's the price of your high ticket offer? And I go, well, it's $10,000. You're going to go, are you sure? Like you don't sound very confident in it. I'm not going to spend $10,000 on something that the person who's quoting it to me doesn't even sound like they even believe in it. Why would you buy that? You wouldn't. So you have to be congruent when you talk about your pricing. So if you really cannot say the price, you have it priced too high for you. Now, it could be that it's still not good business for you to sell it at a lower price, but if you can't get the price out of your mouth and be congruent, you're in trouble. And
Yeah.
people are going to feel that from you. So a lot of times I play this out with clients, and in a session, I'll say, okay, so based on I'm looking at this offer here, and we figured, there's a lot of factors that we play with to figure out pricing. And I go, could you sell this for 10,000? And they're like, I go, well, could you sell it for 2,000? They're like, yeah, of course. Okay. Can you sell it for 5,000? Oh yeah, of course. Can you sell it for 7,500? Yeah. Okay. Can you sell it for 8? Mm, the price is 7,500. Sell one or two or three, and then raise the price. Because at that point, it'll be a proven offer. You'll go, well, people have definitely paid me 7,500 and I know it should be priced at 10 grand. So I'm going to keep raising the price till I get it to a place where I'm like, it's 10,000. And you're going to understand the value that you deliver because you will have already delivered it a few times. This is back to our earlier conversation
Yeah.
about like proof of concept.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great tip. And that's something that I like to do also. I have in my group program, we work through looking at a floor pricing of
Mm,
what is the time you have to put in to deliver it? Like what is the floor for this to hit, your profitability metric? And that's your minimum. You're not allowed to
yes.
go below that, right?
Good.
And then I'll say like here's sort of the value-based way of like, well, what would be the ceiling that you could possibly charge? And actually just had this conversation this week with one of our clients about like she was used to being, right there at the floor. And so of course, like she's making money, but not a lot. Right. And I was like, okay, so the ceiling, the high offer, she's clenching, right? Like butt clenching in seat, like this is not going to
Yes.
come out of her mouth. And so it's like you said, finding that edge of like the comfort, like starting to feel a little bit edgy and like start there. And again, don't do like I've done in the past and stick yourself with something that you're going to have to be in for like 12 months. Like don't put this at a 12-month contract if you feel there's a chance that you will want to raise the price on it in 3 months after you get a few reps under your belt. So all good tips. I feel like I could keep asking you in 1,000 sales questions, because I think most of the advice out there on the internet and online business land is about marketing, right? And I think that we
Mhm.
don't talk enough about the actual skill of selling. So I think it's really important. The one final thing that has come to mind as we've been sitting here is I'm just curious in what you are seeing in terms of the general economic environment. What I'm seeing in my business, what some of my clients are seeing is not that people aren't buying anymore. They're just maybe taking longer to do it. They want to feel really confident in what they're buying. And so I'm curious what if that's your experience too, if you're seeing other things.
Yeah, I have seen that people are taking a little bit longer. They are a little bit more hesitant to like I pull the trigger, if not a better term than that, but like to say like, okay, I'm in. And at the same time, I think sometimes it's an opportunity when people aren't saying yes to the things that you're putting in front of them, it might be time for you to tweak something about it. So for instance, a couple months ago, I put together what I thought was going to be an absolute home run group program. I was super excited about it. I had done a little bit of testing and had an audience that was like, "Oh my gosh, you blew my mind." I got such a big response that I was like, this is going to be an easy sell because people were so excited from that went through it. And I put it out and it was like it went over like a lead balloon. Like it just didn't go anywhere. And I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. So I don't beat myself up and I don't like, oh, everybody hates me. Nobody wants to buy from me. I go, what do I need to tweak about this offer? So I turned it into a private one-on-one offer for a VIP program. And I put it back out and I got buyers on it. And the people who are going through it are super happy. They're loving it. And I'm loving delivering it. So I think sometimes you just need to be a little creative. If you haven't gotten the response that you expect, it's okay. Be willing to be curious and be willing to make some adjustments and see what happens.
Yeah, I've done that a little bit too, just like tweaking the offers. I personally have kind of reopened a more like middle tier price range
Mhm.
offer.
Yeah.
And with the middle tier, people don't get as much access to me individually. It's more reliant on my team. And they're still getting like my team is amazing. Like they're still going to get good results. I get great feedback on my team. It's just having that as another option for people to, if they're like, oh, CFO, I can't pay multiple thousands of dollars a month in a retainer, but I do feel more comfortable in, 2000 a month or something like that, right? Like
Mhm.
having that as an option, but when we lower the price to keep it profitable, right? We want to like make sure we tweak the like you said, the delivery model.
Yeah,
Or
for
like
sure.
I think it's interesting people were more willing to buy the VIP one-on-one, which presumably costs more than a group program.
It was interesting. It didn't I left the price the same, but I did pull out a lot of things, right? In the VIP, in the group program, they would have gotten a lot more because it was like a group setting. It would have been longer. It would have been deeper dives on certain things. Yeah. So again, super happy with the clients that have gone through it. They seem really satisfied with it. And now I'm trying to figure out like what else can I do with it? And I might actually just put it back out as a group offer because I have like I understand the value that people are getting out of it. So I just think it's being willing to test. But I like what you said about having a mid-tier offer that you pull some of the you work and you put your team can serve as a component to it and it takes away so you're still the premium offer. I do love that too.
Yeah. And like to be clear, I'm still there, right? They still have,
Yeah.
there's still meetings with me and all that. It's just I'm not the primary, which is nice for me for my energy too. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think it's good that you're seeing the same thing that I've been seeing. I just keep seeing all kinds of people talk about like recession and da da da. And I just don't want to be fear mongery at all, but just like, I think as with any time in business, just be flexible and willing to test things out, like you said. So
And don't give up. That's my thing too. Is like don't because something doesn't go well or because something feels like a flop, that don't make it be all or nothing, right? Like it's either a success or it's a failure. It's like, well, what part of it can you make an adjustment to and keep going? Because I do think the people who keep going through whatever we're going through and how people are being a little bit more, I think, conservative about making decisions on things. If you're willing to keep going, if you're willing to keep testing offers, putting things in front of people, you will find buyers.
yeah, no, I think you're so right. Well, I'm on to my last question. I asked this of everybody on here, and that is tell me about something fun a life upgrade that your business has afforded you, because I think it's important that we hear, people having fun with money and not just always being responsible, although it's important to be responsible too.
This is a real answer. And I also get a lot of judgment when I say this to people, but I'm really proud of the fact that my business affords this to me. So we'll see what you think. Is I fly first class. I don't like to not fly first class. If I have to fly, I'm going to upgrade to a first class ticket and my business pays for that.
That is not a judgment. I don't judge
good.
that at all.
People
I
often
thought
look
you
at
were
me
going to
like,
say
"What?"
something like, no, I thought you were going to say something like, it's given me a Star Wars memorabilia collection or something. Like, no offense if that's your thing. I was like, oh. No, I actually flew first class for the first time ever a couple of months ago. And I'm convinced that that's the way to go now.
It is definitely the way to go. Well, I will say, and the reason for this is because I flew so much in my career that my airline used to send me a Christmas gift every year. Like that's how much I flew. So I was almost like 70% of the time I was upgraded to first class as just from my status alone. So when I stopped flying all the time and I lost all my status, I got a little spoiled. Like, because once you start flying first class, I think it's hard to go back to anything else.
I agree. And when I was in first class, I was like listening to all the people around me, all the businessmen talking about, oh, my status is the top. I'm like, yeah, I'll pay for my ticket. Thank you. I don't want to be on the plane that much away from my life. So no, that's a good one. And it's one of those, oh my gosh, I had so many thoughts around actually booking the ticket and sitting there and did I belong there and all kinds of stuff, but it was worth it. 100%.
Yeah. I'm glad you've had that experience.
Yes, that's a good one. First off, I appreciate you coming here and dropping just all kinds of nuggets and tips and just everything about sales. So I'm so appreciative of that. And if you will, tell us where to find you online and how people can work with you.
Is it okay if I wrap it around a gift for your audience?
Yes.
Okay, so the easiest way for us to be connected, I'm going to wrap it around a little mini training that I have that is my signature framework for a sales conversation. It's called Mastering the Sales Conversation. And I teach you a 5-step process to the sales conversation. And you can get that by going to yoursalesmaven.com/prosper. So this is for your audience. I would love to gift that to you. If you want to hang out in other ways, I have a podcast myself. It's called Sales Maven. I tend to hang out on LinkedIn and Instagram the most on social media, although I'm not on social media a ton. So we can connect there as well.
Awesome. Well, I will have the link in the show notes, and I will probably go watch it too, because sales is a skill I think we all can probably just keep developing, honestly. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I hope you all enjoyed listening to this, and go reach out to Nikki. And I'll see everybody next time. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Now, I want you to go take some action. What's one thing you can do this week to create more profit in your business? Send me a DM on Instagram at YoungCoCFO and share your action item with me. If you have a question or topic you'd like me to dive into, or if you're feeling empowered about taking charge of your finances, let's continue the conversation. Go to profitandprosper.co to submit a question or topic for me to talk about on the show. And because we all profit and prosper better with friends, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe wherever you listen, and share the episode. Make sure you tag me at YoungCoCFO on Instagram so I can give you some love, and I'll see you in the next episode.